Welcome back, Cat 5 class. So we're going to go over problem 3-19 and draw the isometric view. Again, this is extra credit, 10 points each, so you can take a shot at all these other problems in chapter 3 from this handout that we covered at the beginning of the semester. All right, so quick review. So we're going to draw a box first. And then we're going to draw in all the features, all the details. So then at the end, you are supposed to either delete your box or hide it. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so we have an overall height of 0.75. That's the overall height. We have a depth of 1.5. Actually, that should be in parentheses, 1.5, because we're double dimensioning with the radius of 0.75. Just double 0.75, we get 1.5, so this should be in parentheses. Okay, so that's the depth. And we need an overall length, and I just realized we're missing a dimension. We're supposed to have a dimension from this corner to the center of the hole, which happens to be concentric with the arc. We would have that dimension plus 0.75. All right, so let's go ahead and cheat and go to the AutoCAD file. So I've already cheated. There it is. So the overall length is 2.75. Okay, so normally you would not dimension it this way. The correct way would be to place a dimension from this corner to the center. So we would have that dimension of 2. And we would have the radius, right? I'm in the wrong layer, but we'll ignore that for this video. Okay, so 2 plus 0.75 is 275, right? So this would be the correct way of dimensioning the overall length. It's 2 plus 0.75. You can put the 2.75 in parentheses as reference only. All right, so let's go over to our construction layer. And let's start by drawing our box. Okay, so our box will be 0.75 in height, 1.5 in depth. This would be also in parentheses because that's double dimensioning with the 0.75. And the overall length is 275. All right, so let's first go to a grid. Okay, we're gonna, actually I should turn it on. We can barely see our grid, but there it is. Right click on the grid icon, right click, go to grid settings. And in the first tab, snap and grid, go from rectangular snap to isometric snap. And okay. You can see the cursor changed. All right, so let's first draw the bottom of the box. So the bottom of the box will be 1.5 by 275. Okay, so line command, I'll just start anywhere in space. So 275 is the length. Enter. The depth is 1.5. 1.5, enter. Okay, so once again, 275 for the overall length. Enter, and then close it off. Okay, and when we created this rectangle, we want to make sure that we have our ortho on. Okay, so I already had it on, right? So I got a nice rectangle. Okay, now I'm trying to go up 0.75, so I need to hit F5 on the keyboard. Okay, so on the keyboard, hit F5. And that'll let me go vertical now. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so 0.75 for the height. Enter. Okay, the depth is 1.5. Enter and close it off. Right click, enter. Okay, so now let's draw this portion of it. If we want, we can just make a copy, right? Let's go ahead and use copy. Let's make a copy of this one. Copy it over to the left. Use the copy command. not letting me go left. Let me hit F5 on the keyboard. F5, there it is. Now I can go left. There it is. And right click enter. And now we can go ahead and close this off. Line command. Line command again. And there it is. And these three lines are supposed to be hidden lines. We can leave them alone or go to the properties and go to hidden. They're hard to see, so I'll go with dot. There it is, dot. Property lines, all right, or line type I should say. Okay, hit escape to deselect. Okay, so there's our box. Okay, so I'm going to start with the toughest part, the arc. Okay, so if we go back, I should locate the center. That way we can locate our hole and the arc. Okay, so 0.75. So what I'm going to do is from this edge here, I'm going to offset 0.75. And from this back edge, offset 0.75. Okay, so let me zoom in. All right, so I'm going to take this line. I'm going to go in 0.75. I'm going to go ahead and use the copy. Okay, so use copy. Grab the corner or the endpoint. Now I want to go right, not upward, so let me hit F5. F5, there it is. Type in 0.75. There it is. Right click enter. Now we're going to offset this back edge, 0.75. So let's use copy once again. I'll grab the back endpoint, click, and type in 0.75. Enter, and right click enter to exit. It just happens to line up with the back corner of the box. That's just coincidence. All right, so there's our center. Okay, so we're going to draw an ellipse or an arc ellipse. Okay, so we're going to draw this arc. And we're going to go into ISO mode, or I should say we're going to do an ISO circle or ISO arc. Okay, so let's go back to AutoCAD. Okay, so instead of using the circle command, we're going to go over to ellipse. Okay, so we're going to go to ellipse and go to axis end. Click on it. And then in the command line, you see the option to create an ISO circle. So that's an isometric circle. Okay, so we're going to click on it. ISO circle in the command line. Okay, so now we can go ahead and draw the arc. So here's the center. And we're going to get a complete circle, which is, or ellipse, I should say. That's okay. We can always trim it. Okay, and go to the quadrant point and notice how all three quadrants here line up. Click, there it is. Okay, so now I'm going to move it over to the object layer. And there we have it. Okay, hit escape. All right, so we're going to trim off this bottom half. Okay, so I'm going to pre-select the line I'm going to cut it with. I'm going to cut it with this line. Okay, so pre-selected. Then we're going to go over to trim. No, first let me hit escape. Let me make sure I'm in the correct layer, visible layer. There it is. Okay, so once again, let me pre-select my cutting element, that line. There it is. Hit trim. We're going to trim off the right portion of it. There it is. Okay, so there we have our arc. Hit escape on the keyboard to exit. There's the arc. Probably the toughest part of this isometric view. Let's go ahead and get the circle out of the way, the hole. Okay, so this is 0.5. So what I'm going to do is from the center, our center line that we have, we're going to offset half of 0.5, which is 0.25. The radius is 0.25. And then also offset in this direction 0.25. That'll give us our quadrants. Okay, so we're going to offset this line, 0.25. We'll use the move command. My mistake, the copy command, copy. Grab the quadrant, or my mistake, the endpoint. And we're going to go 0.25. That's the radius of the hole, 0.25. Enter. Okay, and then we're going to go 0.25 in the opposite direction. So 0.25, opposite direction. Enter. There we have it. Right click enter. Then we're going to take this line, the same one we used to trim off the portion we didn't want for the ellipse. Okay, so I'm going to take this line now. I'm going to also copy it, grab the end point, and we're going to go 0.25 again. Again, that's the radius of the small hole. Enter, there it is. Then go in the opposite direction, 0.25 again, and enter. And there it is. Hit escape to exit. Hit escape on the keyboard. So we know the hole is inside this rectangular box. Okay, so let's go back to ellipse. Axis end. Click on it. And then we're going to click on the ISO circle or isometric circle option. Click on it. We know the center, there it is. And notice how all 4 quadrants line up with our yellow construction lines. That's a good sign. Click. And there we have it. Okay, so let me just hit escape, make sure I get out of any command I may be in. Okay, so now let's work on the front portion of it, or the side view here. Okay, so I'm going to go 0.75, and I'm going to go in. Okay, so 0.75, go in. So let's go ahead and draw this rectangle. Actually, that's an easy one. So actually, my mistake is not 0.75, it's 0.375, 0.375, 0.5, 0.375, 0.5. Okay, so let's use line command. So the overall height is 0.75, half of that is 0.375. Okay, so click. And let me hit F5 so I can go upward. There it is. Or I can just go to the midpoint. So you can see that's 0.375. Click. Then I'm going to go 0.5 inward, 0.5, enter, and 0.375 downward, 0.375, that's half of 0.75, and close it off. There it is. And hit escape to exit. Now I'm going to make a copy of this one and copy it over here to this vertex. So I'm going to pre-select the visible white object lines. Use the copy command. Copy. I'll grab the bottom left vertex and just copy it over. And there it is. And right click enter to exit. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, now let's draw this line and then we'll go up. Okay, so let's draw this line and we'll go up. So notice this 0.375. This length, we don't know it, but we can measure it off the top view. So okay, we're going to cheat. All right, let me temporarily turn off my construction line so we can get a better view. Oop, I'm not currently in the correct mode. Okay, it worked anyway. Okay, so 1.25. Okay, so 1.25. Okay, let's see if we can do it without the construction lines. Okay, so line command. Once again, we're going to go 1.25. Okay, so line command. Click. I want to go left, so let me hit F5. There it is, 1.25. Enter. And then 0.375 up, 0.375, which is half of 0.75. Enter. And notice how it lines up with the end of the arc. There it is, and right click enter. Okay, so there we have it. So we can just copy this over to the left side. Okay, so I'm going to pre-select this line, this one, and we're going to make copies of it. Go to copy, grab the vertex, or I should say the endpoint. Let me hit F5. Here it is, F5. Notice how it lines up. Everything looks good. It's a good sign. Click, and right click enter. Okay, so now we can draw these lines here. Use the line command. Right click enter, hit spacebar to repeat the command, which is line. Okay, and right click enter. Okay, so now we need to draw the side here. So let me turn on my construction layer. Okay, so we're going to go straight down till we hit the yellow line and then close it off. All right, so this is going to be a little bit tough. Line command. There it is. We have the quadrant. Make sure you have quadrant on. If you don't, right click on object snap, right click and turn on the quadrant option. Okay, so once again, line command, go to the quadrant on the arc, there it is, and go straight down. Let me hit F5. Here it is, F5. And I'm trying to track this. I'm having trouble. So what I'll do is I'll just overshoot. I can always come back and trim it off. Right click enter, or shorten it with the grips. Okay, so line command again. This time I'll go from this corner. Let me hit F5. There it is. And close it off. Click. Okay, now I can shorten it using the grips. Okay, now this is not correct. This should not be a sharp corner, so I need to round this off. Let's go to the handout. Notice how it's not a sharp corner. So this round area here is going to match this one. So all I'm going to do is take this arc and just copy it downward by a total of 0.75. All right, so let's go ahead and let me turn off construction. Okay, so I'm going to select the arc and I'm going to create a copy. And I'll just grab it from anywhere, it doesn't really matter. Click. And we're going to go downward, 0.75. Enter, there it is, it lines up. Right click enter. Okay, so there is the arc. We need to remove the excess. Okay, so I'm going to pre-select everything. I'm just going to pre-select everything, turn everything into a cutting element. I'm going to use trim. I'm going to zoom in into that corner. Okay, so we don't need this portion, don't need that portion, don't need this one, nor this one. And there it is. Now it's nice and round. Hit escape to exit the command. So there it is. We don't have a sharp corner anymore. It's nice and round, just like it is up here. All right, we're almost there. Okay, so we have this opening here. All right, so let me go over to construction layer. I'm going to draw a construction line going across from this vertex to this one, and then I'm going to create a copy and offset it by, let's see how much that is, 0.5. So we need to locate the center, so it's 0.5 from this edge. Okay, so let me go to construction layer. mistake. Let me do that again. Go to construction layer. Draw a construction line from this corner or that vertex to this one. Let me hit F5. There it is. Okay, right click enter. And now we're going to make a copy of this line. Make a copy. I'll grab the endpoint and we're going to go inward 0.5. Okay, it looks like I mistyped, so let me do it again. Point 5. Enter, there it is. And right click enter. Okay, so we also need to go to this center. You know what? Let me delete these lines here. I don't need them anymore. And they're getting in my way visually. So I'm going to delete these 3 construction yellow lines. All right, so now I'm going to draw a line to help me locate the center. Again, construction line. From the midpoint to midpoint, there it is. Right click enter. Okay, so we know there's the center of the arc that we're going to draw. Okay, and it has a radius of 0.25. Happens to be the same as this one. So notice radius 0.25, diameter of 0.5. It's actually the same radii. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this one and bring it down over here. Okay, so I'm going to cheat. I'm going to make a copy of this one. Let me first go over to the visible layer. Okay, so I'm going to take this circular elliptical hole, right? It's actually circular, but from this point, from this perspective, it looks elliptical. I'm going to make a copy and grab it from its center. And here I need to turn off ortho. Turn off ortho. And there it is. There's the center where our 2 construction lines intersect. Then click. There it is. Right click enter. And there's our ellipse. Okay, so now we're going to draw 2 visible object lines. Okay, so go to line command. We'll go from this corner to this intersection point. And actually, I should have ortho on. There's ortho. There it is. Right click enter. Repeat on the other side. Line command. There we have it. Right click enter. Okay, let me turn off the construction lines. I know it gets a little crowded. Okay, so now we can remove the excess. So let me just window capture everything. Hit trim. And remove the portion we don't want. And there it is. Okay, and hit escape on the keyboard. We're not done. We still need to draw this lower portion. Okay, so let's cheat. Take a look at the handout. So we need to draw this portion of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy the radius or the arc and this line. Copy it downward. Okay, and it's going to be 0.375. Okay, so I'm going to select the arc, select this line, make a copy, grab it from this corner or endpoint, and I'm going to go downward. Let me hit F5. There it is. I can go 0.75 or just hit that endpoint. Click. There we have it. Right click enter to exit. Okay, and there it is. And now all we have to do is remove the excess. Let me go to trim, see if I can just do it without having to pre-select. Oh yeah, okay, good. I don't have to pre-select any cutting elements. I can just go ahead and start removing. There it is. And hit escape on the keyboard. And there's our isometric view. Okay, let's double check. There it is. We have our isometric view. Now, isometric views on a drawing, when we create a real drawing out in the real world of our front, top, and side view, the isometric view is considered reference only. It's just to help the machinist or inspector visualize the part. So since it's reference only, we don't dimension it like we have it here on the handout. We actually dimension the 3 views down here. And we do not include center lines nor hidden lines. There are some rare exceptions, but 99.9999% of the time, we do not dimension an isometric view. No hidden lines, no center lines. All right, so let's go back. Okay, it looks good. Let's get out of this mode here that we currently are in. Right click on the grid icon, go to grid settings, and let's go back to rectangular, snap, and okay. Okay, so typically in a drawing, you want to move this over closer to your other views. And sometimes a full view will just take up too much space. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and scale it down, which is very common. We'll do a half scale. So let me go ahead and capture everything first. And go to scale. Grab any corner, center point, etc. We'll grab this bottom corner. And I'm going to type in 0.5. Enter. There's our ISO view. So you can go half scale, quarter scale, whatever you need to make it fit. And I'll just go ahead and move it over closer to our drawing here. Let me turn off ortho. All right, and typically if you were to put a title on your isometric view, you would put isometric view, reference only. Okay, it's not necessary to create an isometric view, but it does help out when it comes to visualizing the part for the machinist and the inspector, or whoever's reading your drawing. All right, so that's the end of problem 3-19 on how to create an isometric view. Again, this is extra credit, 10 points for the isometric view. Okay, end of video.